Welcome back to Cheche, the program where opinion counts. Today's guest is the founder of the opposition Amani National Congress Party, Musalia Mudavadi. And so, your politics. We have the Nigerian president visiting Kenya from today. He stunned everyone with his victory last year. Will you be meeting him? Will you be seeking out any tips from him on how to win an election?
I will not be meeting him.
No.
But it's good that he's able to make a visit to Kenya. I think that is key. Nigeria is at the moment now the largest economy in Africa. And therefore, good relations between Kenya and Nigeria are important. And therefore, I can only say that it's good that he's visiting. And about his victory, we have read quite a bit about it.
But coming then to how you're running your campaign, how you're organizing yourself, are you going it alone, as you've told us previously, or are you preparing yourself, positioning yourself to go into 2017 in some sort of coalition?
I have not changed from what I told you earlier. I told you that ANC is preparing and it's building up its momentum so that I am a presidential candidate in 2017. That position has not yet changed. The fact is that constitutionally, ANC can form coalitions, but that is not on the table at this point in time. Our focus remains the 2017 presidential elections.
So when we read news or see in the media that ANC is supporting Kanu or Kanu's candidate in a by-election, we shouldn't read too much into that.
You don't forget that prior to ANC being constituted, we had the Amani coalition, and in that coalition, Kanu was a partner. So really, at this particular point in time on the Kericho seat, there is nothing else to it apart from the fact that we are showing solidarity with Kanu because we were in the same coalition.
What do you say about what your former partner, Jeremiah Kioni, says that it was concocted, that unity between you and him, in order to divide the Luya vote so that you become a presidential candidate, and that it was cooked with that purpose only? In fact, he said he didn't even vote for you. What do you say about that?
Actually, he didn't say that. He was reported as having not voted.
Yes. I think I was going to correct that because I can speak on one issue. Jeremiah Kioni was my running mate in the last election, and I have a lot of respect for him. And I can tell you that on the question of voting, he's a man who was flogged unfairly here, because there are very few people, believe you me, who know the difference between Laikipia and Nyandarua counties. They don't know that they are two different counties. So there is a media group that went into Laikipia and purportedly went to a voting station where Kioni was supposed to be voting, and yet Kioni was voting in Nyandarua. So these are two different counties, and indeed he even sued because he felt that he had really been insulted on this particular issue, and the matter up to this day I think is still pending in some court somewhere. Now, as to whether he actually said that he was there to divide the Luya vote, I would like to be able to give him the benefit of doubt and talk to him directly on that.
You have been very categorical that you're not joining any of the two dominant coalitions, Jubilee and CORD. Why so? If there were a way in which you can get your objectives met.
Yeah, why don't they join me?
Okay, it's either way.
Yeah, I mean, why don't they join
you?
me?
They say a small river flows into a big one.
I think.
Why don't they join you? Hang on,
yes.
let's just so that you can answer it comprehensively.
Yes,
you came third.
Yeah, but the point.
In both,
but the point I'm trying to make, is it a permanent position?
Of course not.
It's not a permanent position. In an election, roles can be reversed.
Yeah.
I mean, we have seen people who have contested. In one election, he was third, and in the next election, he wins. So let's not try and say that this is cast in concrete. Yeah. But the point I'm trying to put across here is this, and this one I'm going to talk to you directly as people in the media, that if you look carefully, you are suppressing the third voice in this country. You are constantly putting people on a two-lane corridor, which is not right. If we look at the opinion polls that have been coming up from time to time, we may not all agree with the results, but one fundamental thing is being brought out by Ipsos. It shows Uhuru's popularity, the Jubilee popularity declining. It also shows the area where Raila has also been declining. And then it shows a growing segment of Kenya, which is almost at 30%, that is now not satisfied by either of the two coalitions. And you constantly keep ignoring this corridor. Okay, so that we are all being herded again.
We're going to look at
into a two-lane
look at those statistics
situation. And I think you owe it to the Kenyans to reverse this.
Let me take you a bit back to an old question about the fact that each of these candidates must have a certain voting bloc where they have a dominant support, so to speak. And you, as traditional and as expected, is supposed to be Western, where you're supposed to get the whole ground, just the way William Ruto has Rift Valley, the President has Central and so forth, and Raila has the Nyanza bloc. What steps or what movement are you achieving in getting that bloc behind you, especially seeing that there's also my Senator Moses Wetangula, who has stuck on this lane that is going for president? Are there engagements? Are you trying to consolidate your backyard? Because we are not seeing others fighting for the other blocks in the other areas.
I mean, politics is competitive, and I think we must cherish and encourage competition. As far as I'm concerned, ANC is moving very aggressively in campaigning to win the hearts and the minds of the people across the country, and even more specifically in the western region of this country. So that is there. It is my constitutional right. It is equally Senator Wetangula's constitutional right to also seek and compete for the same space. So that is perfectly in order. All we are saying is that we as ANC are gaining ground, and we are going to push and push.
What is the evidence that we are gaining ground?
You want to know the evidence?
Yes.
I can tell you that in the last few months, we have been visiting specific counties, and we have done 3 days in Busia. We are going to do several days in Kakamega, Vihiga, Bungoma, and even Trans Nzoia. And we are getting so many people who are now coming forward to say that they want to seek either the MCA-ship or seek the parliamentary seats or seek the other electoral positions on our ticket. Now, that level of interest has overwhelmed us, that within such a short time frame, there is such a big group of people who are now beginning to seek our ticket.
How much confidence do you have in the IEBC and the electoral process going forward?
Unfortunately, the level of confidence is very low at this point in time. One, they did release the election roadmap the other day, but they've already started on the wrong foot, because they are saying they've been given 500 million to start the voter registration next month. Believe you me, it was supposed to have started in November, according to their earlier timetable last year. But now it's going to start in February. Now,
if I understand the position correctly, voter registration has always been ongoing.
It is supposed to be continuous.
Yes.
But you see, they want to have what we would call mass
registration,
which they want to kickstart in February. But you're kickstarting with only 500 million shillings. Now, there are about 1,050 wards in the country. If you divide that by that amount, it comes to about 480,000 per ward for registration. Then you give 2 officers and 1 kit, and you say you want to start mass registration. My friend Makali was a contestant in one of the elections.
Actually, he was a contestant, and to be fair to our viewers, he's also been doing some work for the IBC, so this is going directly to them. Yes.
Okay, but he can see that in a ward, if you have 2 officers and you have 1 kit and you're traversing a ward, how many people can you really register? Will it even meet the allowances of those officers and the fuel costs and so forth? So that is the wrong side of kickstarting this process. So that is an issue. The second thing is that the statistics continuously indicate that certain regions have a lower backlog, lower backlog of unregistered voters, and others have a much higher backlog of unregistered voters. Now, why are you releasing resources on an equivalent basis across the board, when you know very well that there are certain areas that have to take a much higher...
Need more work done.
They need more work done, and others have more or less completed. Now, these are not good signals. You're beginning to either prepare people early and then say there was voter apathy or something. So, as far as I'm concerned...
prepare early for what? For rigging or some sort of...
You start conditioning. You can start conditioning people. And we should not have that happening again. Then, slightly away from the IEBC, there is the identity card. All right? This one, of course, is not the purview of IEBC. But the IEBC should also be categorical that unless there is simultaneous and coordinated approaches between the issuance of IDs and the voter registration, their exercise will not achieve the desired objective.
Okay, so that's on the IEBC's. David, go
maybe
ahead.
I should, since you said...
well, you wear several hats, and one of them has...
of course, right now I'm the communications advisor to IBC, and let's make that clear. And as I speak now, I speak from that that position.
Right.
I think there's a bit of misunderstanding on exactly how the mass voter registration is going to roll out. The details of this registration haven't been shared comprehensively with the stakeholders, and I think they're going to do that in the next couple of days before that exercise starts. But just to clarify, I think that's why the impression created that the kits are going to be spread out equally in all the wards is actually not true. In fact, there will be cases, certain wards will have 3-4 kits, others will have 1, depending on the spatial populations, the areas, and the projected targets of the voters who will be registered in each of those areas. So the statistics and the details, of course, are coming. And I think I want to just tell the country that people ought to expect that the IBC is determined to do a clean exercise and to share the information as much as possible.
But you see, since you've
yes, now I can take the questions.
I'll take the question. We'll exchange roles for a moment.
Yes.
Now, do you tell the guys, ambush them in February and tell them that this constituency will have 8 kits, this one will have 2 kits? Why didn't this information come out much earlier and the criteria made public much earlier? Why do you ambush them when you're starting the process? It will be very hard to convince somebody in
like yourself
in Kilifi,
yes,
or somewhere else that in your area you deserve 2, and you have never told him why before. And you are telling me in Sabatia that you have given people in my former constituency 8 kids. You know, this you can't ambush.
I think that there is a point in that. The problem is that IEBC is being lynched on things which are not of its making. For example, you just said that they were given 500 million, which is a fact which can be established by Treasury, by the same politicians who are attacking IEBC, saying they're not preparing, they're not doing a great job. Yet the allocation of those resources is actually a function of Parliament, a function of Treasury, where these MPs actually engage. In fact, that 500 million shillings was budgeted and allocated on the pressure of the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee of Parliament, because it wasn't provided in the budget. So the money was given to them. So IEBC is operating with the resources it's been given. I don't know when they blame IEBC, what IEBC is supposed to do. Stop the registration or do what? So that's the situation IEBC is in. And I think the best thing is to tell Treasury and government to allocate more money so that the exercise can be as widespread and the distribution of the kits can be satisfactory. That is one part. The second part is that the logistics of this exercise actually are going to be shared with the political parties, with the stakeholders, the public, and I think meetings are arranged between now and next week to have this information, so that there is no suspicion that there is something mischievous or being schemed or planned. And I think political parties and players ought to begin developing the confidence that they can actually go to IEBC and get the information and share without speaking from the platforms and then poisoning further the public about information that is not accurate.
Okay. Does that satisfy you? Can we go back into our...
actually, in my view, I think he's actually confirming the concerns that are out there by Kenyans. That if IEBC feels that they have been underfunded, I don't think they should put on a brave face and say that all is well. And the majority in Parliament, whether it is the legal committee or whether it is the budgetary committee,
yes.
Yeah, these committees, and on that score I share your concerns. I did point out that the majority and the people chairing this are people in government or within the context of the ruling coalition, and they have the largest numbers there. The largest number in Mutava's committee is the Jubilee coalition. The largest number in Chepkonga's committee is the Jubilee coalition. Now, how come the legal committee and the one resourcing did not notice that the IEBC requires certain resources? You're tying the IEBC's hands at the back, and then you're telling them go on.
Mishma, you're very right. Except that after the budget appropriations were made, they were brought to the floor of the House, where all members of Parliament, all political parties had opportunity to engage, interrogate the budget and increase the amounts or decrease. I mean, the budgeting process.
But then the tyranny of numbers.
That is something
who played on the tyranny of numbers?
Yes, the point is,
so was it
this is away from IEBC. What I'm trying to say...
I think you need to take the point that our guest here makes, because certainly I think before you started your work with the IEBC, we had the CEO here, Ezra Chiloba, and again it was the same problem, not letting people know that there were constraints, putting on a brave face, and refusing to take on information. And so we've got to take a break now. I believe that in your role as a consultant for the IEBC, you've been given, we usually tease our guests that we've given them free advice. I think you've been given plenty of strategic thinking here from our guests that you can take back to the IEBC. We've got to take a break now. This is Cheche. We're live on Citizen TV with Musalia Mudavadi, the founder of the Amani National Congress Party. When we come back, a little bit more about the elections and how he's preparing for them.